Marijuana stocks. Boy, did they rally right after Jeff Sessions resigned yesterday afternoon. What you're looking at now is those marijuana stocks at pre-market levels. Late yesterday, boy, did they go up. Judge Napolitano, here's the question. Is the new Attorney General, Sessions is gone, going to reclassify marijuana?
I don't know his opinion on this. I know the president's opinion on it, which is that marijuana should be decriminalized throughout the United States.
Has he said that explicitly?
He hasn't said it publicly, but I know he has said it. Enough said.
Oh, okay.
He is known to favor that. He never put reins on this on Jeff Sessions. And Jeff Sessions, much to the chagrin of FBI agents and local federal prosecutors, instructed a rigid and aggressive enforcement of marijuana laws as if this were the 60s or 70s. An utter waste of federal resources. I don't think that waste will continue.
But if the president got his way and he could have recreational marijuana nationwide, that allows banks to finance the marijuana industry.
Changes the industry radically and all for the better.
Yes.
It also changes human freedom, and it frees up law enforcement to go after truly dangerous
whether it's for the better or not, that's another story. But economically
for the better is what I meant to say.
At that point.
Absolutely. I think you will see that happen. I just don't think that Whitaker, and he's only in there for 210 days and probably less, is going to carry out the Jeff Sessions pattern on marijuana.
Could well happen the next few years. Could be.
Yes. Oh, I think it's going to happen in 2019.
Okay. Oh, well, there's a pretty... You're on tape, lad. Thanks, Judge.
See you later.
All right.
Thanks, Judge. What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? What a week for weed! Woohoo! Happy dance, happy dance. 2 sessions out. Ba-ding! And this guy in. Let's take a look. Thanks to Marijuana Mama. Welcome, everybody. I see folks jumping in the chat already. Jingo ate my baby. Veg Scrum Bloom. Seth Brown. Welcome, new viewer. I am going to take calls in a little bit. I just want to make sure this webinar gets started. And I'll take some calls after we get into that a little bit. And then who else we got? Oh, Alex Ware is here too. Brian Wilkerson jumping in, and Real Jingy jumping in the chat right away. Welcome, everybody. That was, of course, Fox Business. And Judge Napolitano, or is that him? I don't know. I don't watch Fox. Yeah, I know he's on Fox a lot. I don't watch any cable news now. It's great. But there you go. He knows Donald. The rumors abound, man. They've been under the radar a little bit, percolating with Boehner and others. Rohrbacher. I guess he's out. I guess Rohrbacher's out. Top weed guy, surfer, stoner. No, yeah, I mean, I gotta stop referring to stoners that way. Considering I am one. Yeah, so Rohrbacher's out. We're going to talk a little bit about that. A couple of good stories of marijuana moment, in the last couple of days over these, wild changes. We knew it was coming. We just didn't realize it was going to happen 12 hours after the election. That's all. So we checked in from our brunch yesterday, and Chela's out doing stuff this morning with Mom, and I wanted to be a part of this. What we are waiting to see and catch and report on, and have a little watch party on. Why should everybody have to get these newsletters? I get them from the National Cannabis Industry Association. They're going to have reactions to the Tuesdays. Win for weed, folks. Weed won on Tuesday night. Marijuana won in the marijuana midterms. Definitely. North Dakota, an outlier for sure. I have had a bag or two already. Little Blue Dream. We should spark up, considering that's what I told you to do. What are we smoking? Jingo ate my baby. I heard it's really tough to get medical marijuana down there. But you are doing brain cancer research with MMJ, so that's good on you. Not so much here yet. I'm going to make another cup of coffee, but we did Marijuana Moment. One of the stories Marijuana Moment picked up on this week, as soon as the interim, as the judge said, Whitaker is filling in for about 200 days. So I don't think we have too much to worry about with him. But what do you call it? Tom over there did a little digging and came across some of what Whitaker thinks. It is Whitaker, right? What Whitaker thinks about cannabis, CBD anyway, and the Cole memo on a sideline in Iowa from this 2014 debate. So let's listen to see what he had to say.
Whitaker,
Right.
you've
Two
been involved
thoughts.
in enforcement. Should the federal government step back?
I have. Well, first of all, I know a couple families that are going to be positively impacted by what has happened in the state Senate today, and I applaud them for helping those families that need that help. But what we have now is we have an attorney general that is telling state attorney generals, if you disagree with a law, you don't have to enforce it. And I am gravely concerned that we are now going to go back and forth between who's in the White House and what their drug enforcement policy is. And you'll see under what we have now, where you have Colorado and other states legalizing it and really with no federal interference. And then when we come back, we may have a different regulatory scheme.
Well, what should Congress do? What should the Senate do?
Well, I think Congress, should regulate the things that harm people. And that is the hard drugs and the like that dramatically hurt citizens, cause violent crime in our communities, and those should be regulated.
But not marijuana?
For me, I saw the impact of marijuana on our borders. And if you go to any of the counties in Texas where there's an illegal importation of marijuana, there's a tremendous amount of violence.
Kay Henderson.
Candidates, there has been a lot of discussion.
So a little insight as to his thoughts when he was he was the man down on the border. But, as the judge says, 200 days on this guy. And we'll see who gets nominated. Who gets nominated as the permanent. All arrows indicate Trump wants to be popular. And I think it's been a good week. It's been a really good week. Now, will he make it through the indictments? I don't know. We'll see, because those are supposed to be coming down too. But that's supposedly what this is supposed to be all about. Thank you, Alex. Yes, smash the button, subscribe, get notifications. Live 3 times this week. Normally we go live on Sundays at 4:20 Pacific. That'll be our regular show, Reefer Revolution Live. This is another special edition, sort of just to absorb and talk about the session sitch, and also what's going, how the states are reacting to all this news, how the industry is reacting to all this news, and that's really what we're waiting for. We're going to check in on a webinar with some industry leaders. Be like peeking in, and see what they have to say. But it's anybody can sign up for this webinar, so I'm just saving you the email in your email. But I follow this stuff, so we're gonna MST 3000 it and watch this webinar, or at least listen to it. And then we'll take some calls if folks want to hang around. If you need to take off and want to call in, certainly we'll interrupt these guys and we can take a call if you like. That was fun. We did that the other day. My bag is almost full. I'm going to set up the phone. I'll set up the Skype. And Bingus, hey, good morning, Bingus. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for all you do and all you guys do over at Grandmaster level. I'm going to be using your knowledge, your information when I start my little babies. So stay tuned for DC's adventures in growing. We'll be updated here on the channel, as well as our new Instagrams and all of our socials that Chela's now got a handle on. Or at least we're trying to get a handle on. Revolving. We're growing, expanding. Thanks to you, Bingus, and all the growers that have jumped in. Yeah, the industry is here to stay. It's good to keep an eye on them. And Prop 1 in Michigan has opened the door to a lot of business. Of course, we saw, hey, Happiness Without Guilt. Nice to see you. It has really, the stocks, I followed them. The stock did definitely go up. Went back to pre-market levels. Tilray bounced back up there. So, I'm going to get my bag off of the AirRiser EQ over here as we watch let's check out another business story, because that's really what we're talking about today. Let's play, this is how the folks we're going to peek in on, how they reacted to the news about the election. Let's see what the NCIA has to say. That is the National Cannabis National Cannabis Industry Association. Here we go. Corporate cannabis at its best. Here we go.
Welcome to NCIA's Election Watch Party here at our Denver office for the 2018 midterm election. While election returns are still coming in from across the country, there's one clear winner tonight, and that is the cannabis industry and marijuana policy reform. Voters in Michigan overwhelmingly just made that state the second largest adult use market in the country and the first state in the Midwest to regulate cannabis like alcohol. And in Missouri, voters overwhelmingly turned out to the polls to enact a comprehensive medical marijuana measure that will expand access to patients across the state and set up a regulated system. In fact, more voters supported medical cannabis than the new GOP senator elected in that state. And over in Utah, voters are also poised to overwhelmingly support a medical marijuana measure there. The tide is turning. Champions for our issue and for our industry were elected to the governor's mansions in Illinois, Colorado, and California. And candidates supported by the NCIA PAC are winning election to Congress across the country. For more in-depth analysis about what this means for you and for our industry and what our path forward is, tune in to our webinar tomorrow.
The US midterm election results were a mixed bag for political parties, but it turns out there was one clear winner, and that is marijuana. 3 states voted to legalize cannabis in Tuesday's poll, with Utah and Missouri approving the drug for medical use, while Michigan allowed recreational use. 33 states have now legalized medical marijuana, and 10 states plus Washington, D.C. have legalized recreational marijuana. The next challenge for cannabis advocates is to get the drug legal at the federal level.
So all of the little news magazines doing their video memes about the legalization, blowing everyone's mind. We knew we knew was going to win. Both Brando and I were saying, 57% early on, as soon as we started the broadcast on Tuesday, as soon as the first results were in. And those polls, actually, that Marijuana Business Daily, the final polls that they tracked, were almost spot on all of their tracking. So whatever they're doing for marijuana polling is good. And North Dakota, I really want to analyze or figure out, see who analyzes. I'm sure Marijuana Moment or one of those good folks will start looking at what happened in North Dakota, because North Dakota really was the most freedom-oriented bill of all of them, and thought it would do better. But the poll was right on. It was right around 35, 39% yes, and don't remember the exact numbers, but I'll get them. But they were close. But it didn't make it, but that was the only one, really, that we're still going to check into for Sunday's show, all of the local bills, some news coming through early in the week here about some taxes that were approved, most of them positive. Looks like the cities want their money. They want that tax money. So that's starting to happen in the local ballots. And we are going to wait and see what some of these... This webinar is going to include several of the folks from those states that were instrumental in making sure that they happened. So I really want to find out. Maybe the person from North Dakota can let us know what happened. That's really kind of what I want to hear about this. Everybody knows really about Brando. Just did a great video on Prop 1. Check out the Daily Dope and his coverage on that. So let's, while we're waiting for this webinar, let's check in on the chat here. Alex Ware, pot is bipartisan, brother. That is true. It crosses all lines. And pretty much you can't find anybody. It's really hard to find anybody, even, in the Republican Party. The majority of people even want full legalization. It's a freedom thing. It's a freedom issue, and we can find it there, and we can find it as medicine. And that's what we try to do, as well as on Binga's show and others. Try to make sure to communicate that cannabis is medicine, and it has been a medicine for thousands of years, and it's only been an illegal substance for 70. So we're under a heavy, heavy propaganda cloud that we are peeking our head above. Our little sprouts, little plants breaking its head above. John Boehner, have you seen the back of a $10 bill? You see this $10 bill? That's George Washington standing in a field of hemp. Now is the time to be all in on cannabis. So a lot of folks all in on cannabis. Let's see who's all in on cannabis. New York Stock Exchange is it, motherfuckers. Sorry. I digress. But we will persist. Let's look at this video from that was Fox Business. Let's take a look at CNBC. And Tilray was one of those stocks that bounced after Sessions' firing or the election or both or whatever the reason was. They made a little bounce right after. And I mean, well, it happened. It was the same day, essentially. So call it for whatever you will. Tilray got back up to where it was. And here's what he has to say about the midterms here in the States. Tilray, of course, the company that, for those of you who don't know, don't watch our show for the last year. Tilray is the Canadian company that received special approval from the DEA to export from Canada capsules with THC. We're on the air. Surprise! With THC to California for clinical trial in San Diego. So here is as Chela arrives to the surprise party, and we're going to watch this video from CNBC from the CEO of Tilray on Squawk Box Europe. Maybe they won't hit me, but they might. Who knows? Fair use, y'all. Hi, Chel.
Is this a win for the cannabis industry on the back of the midterms?
It is, definitely. Last night we saw one state legalized for adult use and 2 for medical, which it brings us to 33 medical states and 10 adult use states. We saw this wave continue in the U.S. We're now at a point where 93% of Americans believe that medical cannabis should be legal. 65% believe that cannabis should be legal for adult use. And so you're seeing state after state and around the world, country after country, legalize medical cannabis.
There is a view that if you have more and more states signing up to either recreational or medical use of cannabis, then it has to topple the federal prohibition on cannabis. Do you think that's next? Is that the next target for the industry?
I think with this new Congress, we'll see bipartisan support for continued medical legalization. I think you'll see some resolution around this federal-state conflict, not only in terms of legalization overall, but in terms of banking and really simple things that are easy for other businesses, but are complicated for cannabis companies.
That's a really interesting point around banking, because just because states decide to legalize, there's still a ban on banks doing business with cannabis companies. And there was a Senate Appropriations Committee that could have voted to allow the wheels of commerce to work for the industry, but they voted against that amendment. There was another example too around veterans not being able to access marijuana, because that was also stopped by an amendment. But there seems to be a massive change in one of the seats. Projections suggest the Republican Pete Sessions of Texas, this is an 11-term Texas Republican, may have been felled. And this man was the chair of the House Rules Committee, and he was one of the main opponents of legalizing cannabis or allowing some of the amendments. The fact that he may now have gone, how key is that to cannabis?
The Texas 32nd is a really important race in that Pete Sessions is a drug war dinosaur that prevented lots of bills from coming to the floor for a vote. And so that will enable some of these federal issues to be resolved. We're really excited about that change where Colin Allred was elected in his place.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our...
It's another sort of sign that we're reaching a stage of what I call sensible cannabis reform in the U.S. market. So if you take what happened last night in Michigan and in Utah and in Missouri, and you aggregate with the other states that have already passed either medical or recreational program, we now have 33 states of the 50 that have either a medical or a recreational program, 10 of which have a recreational program, which encompasses 220 million Americans, or roughly 68% of the population. So individually, it's just another data point that suggests that the desire for sensible cannabis reform at a state and a citizen level is enhancing in every election season. At a gubernatorial level, you highlighted quite correctly the developments in Illinois and Connecticut and New York. So the collective sort of takeaway from last night's results are that there's sort of an irrevocable momentum towards what I call sensible cannabis reform, which ultimately should lead towards a harmonization of federal and state laws.
Right. That seems a little bit far off, though. And in the meantime, a lot of the cannabis companies are working on various licenses and distribution agreements state by state, because you can't, transport cannabis across state lines. How long do you think that situation will remain in place? Because coming to some sort of federal legislation seems like that would be the holy grail in terms of really unleashing investment and unleashing sort of economies of scale in this industry.
Yeah, that will be the breakout event, and I think what will presage that breakout event will be a series of sort of incremental steps, such as the States Act passing. As to when that seismic event will happen, when we will resolve the dichotomy between federal and state law, my own feeling is that it's going to happen post-2020 and probably closer to the next midterms in 2022. But this is, admittedly conjectural. I'm just gathering all the data points that have shown sensible reform in the last few years and postulating that we're reaching a tipping point, and the breakout I expect will happen in the next 4 years.
Well, apparently a lot of people are interested in this meeting because it's full. And even though I was trying to get in for the last, it's been trying to join for the last hour. It kicked me out as full already. So I am going to keep trying. But as we keep trying, let's go ahead and take those calls because Seth's in there, Seth Brown, wanted to call last night, and we weren't really, or rather Tuesday night. We weren't really really could do it. It had been a long night. So let me find the number. I guess I should write it down so it's right here in front of me now that I do this. So Seth, give a call at 323-570-5659. And my glasses. That's what else I need to wear. Here, I'll put it on the screen. There we go. And I should put it in the scroll too. It's exciting. So many people want to know. We know what their reaction is. They basically gave that reaction at the watch party, but I wanted to hear from some of the organizers of these laws. I'm sure they'll put clips up, and we'll keep trying to join. But meanwhile, we'll take some calls. There's the number 323-570-5659. Open line Thursday. Let's talk about cannabis 2018. Thursday thoughts. There we go. Hashtag Thursday thoughts on Reefer Revolution Live. On the Thursday thoughts on the Reefer Revolution. That's TH.
But you're Reefer Rev Live. What's your Twitter name?
My Twitter is at DC420LA. It's Reefer Rev Show at DC420LA. I told you I'm not changing my Twitter.
Right.
Yeah.
I just can't remember. You have so many different names.
I know.
Thursday thoughts.
I know.
At Reefer Rev Show Live. DC420.
I like that.
We're trying to incorporate Thursday thoughts into the
I dig it.
title of the show.
I hear you. I dig it. I understand your method, your madness. Your madness.
I'm leaving.
Yeah, Chela's leaving. Chela's been out. She's leaving. Jackpot's not. Isn't he look cute in his little shirt? He's grooming away. So I just opened my Skype. So Seth, give me a call. Yes. I mean like a Skype call? Yeah. If you don't want to call the number, yeah, I guess I need to know my Skype name. It's DC at DC420LA, I think. But that's the Skype number that anybody can call. Here we go. I'll put this. Try this. This might work. I just dropped a link. Anybody wants to join the Skype call? There's the link. If you've got Skype, I'm gonna go over to anybody in Discord want to talk? I can go over to Discord too. I have a room in Discord at DC420LA. Let me know in the chat as I try to launch this meeting again. Join the meeting. So the new guy's only going to be in there for about 200 days. Whitaker. He's wrong about a lot of things, but he likes what they did in Iowa with regards to CBD and making it available. Still at its maximum. Seth, did you get that link? Or look me up at DC420LA on Skype. Or you can call 323-570-5659. We're doing Thursday Thoughts on Cannabis 2018. Did you vote for cannabis in your state, in your city? Hey, there is somebody. This might be Seth. Let's see. Hi, this is Reefer Revolution Live. Who's this?
This is Seth.
Hey, Seth. How are you, sir? Good to hear your voice.
Pretty good.
I hear me in the background.
Yeah, sorry, it's a laptop. I'm trying to switch my mic up.
Small tube. CJ, what's up, buddy? Welcome. King Bob is calling out some folks in the chat I haven't seen before. Ronald Kropilka, well, hello, welcome. Folks on Periscope, welcome. I see you guys jumping in. Sounding like you successfully muted me in the background.
Yeah, I got it.
There we go. Seth Brown on the Skype. How you doing, Seth?
Pretty good, you?
Good. Pretty excited, actually. Pretty great. I think there's good things happening on the cannabis world for the next year, 2 years.
Yes.
So I'm uplifted. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm going to the doctor tomorrow to get my card.
And remind me where you are again?
Missouri.
You're in Missouri. So yeah, just saw a couple of news stories coming through about Missouri. Big win for Amendment 2. What are your thoughts? And you're going to get your card tomorrow? You can get it right away, huh?
Yeah, you can get it before the dispensaries are open, so that way if you need it, you can go to another state and pick up what you need.
Oh, really? Is that actually in the law?
They're allowing you to get it early, so that way you have it for when they open.
Right? But then if you go to another state,
dispensaries will allow you to get it from other places.
I gotcha. Yeah, I know there are states that have what is it called, Chela, when they recoup? No, they honor the medical cards of the other state.
Yeah.
Reciprocity, that's it. Reciprocity is the word I'm looking for. Well, that's good news. So are you pretty close to a medical legal state as well, currently?
Yes.
Well, that's great. Well, that's great. It's good to hear the reaction that I've seen in the media and the mainstream media is the folks are very excited that it's going to be available to them. And you're a veteran, is that correct? You've served
Actually, no, I am not.
Oh.
I have family members that are.
Oh, that you had. I'm sorry. Now I remember. Now you had the very dramatic car crash.
Yes, and I wrecked a truck a couple years before.
That is, that was quite a. Do you want to share that story again?
Well,
for the audience, or just yeah.
With the truck, I was trying to impress a girl being stupid in Farmington on a really bad road and ended up hitting a telephone pole going way too fast. So she was in a separate vehicle, so she was able to call the police and everything. But I got real screwed up. I shattered my pelvis in a lot of places and multiple internal bleedings and things.
So that was your first entry into massive pain and painkillers, probably.
Yes. I spent months and months in the hospital. And then not too long ago, I wrecked a Mustang going down the road a little bit too fast and went off the road a little bit to avoid hitting a possum on one side. And when I got back onto the road, I overcorrected and hit the other side of the ditch and flipped end over end about 6 or 7 times.
And you said in your chat, you said you were thrown out the back.
Yeah.
As it burst into flames.
Yeah, the car caught fire.
Yeah, we try to create that stuff in movies out here, but a little more controlled. But that's pretty dramatic. But you walked away from that one literally for about 10 miles.
Yeah, I walked about 10 to 11 miles home.
Holy moly!
Because the cop kept telling me I need an ambulance. I was like, dude, if I can make it home from here, I don't need the ambulance, but I'll call you if I fall. And I never had to call him.
Wow. So I'm assuming that your pain journey continued from there.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
I've got psoriatic arthritis.
Just throw that on top of everything else. Wow. Well, that's Seth. I don't mean to laugh at your pain.
Oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
But it's when we were reading your story, Chela and I, the other night when you typed it out, we were both aghast, agape by all of the what you have managed to survive and move forward on and move on. And first thing you're going to do is go get your medical card now that it's legal. So good for you. We'd love to hear from you, on a regular basis, if you don't mind calling in every once in a while along your journey as Missouri puts its, system into place. We really want to, part of what we want to do on our show is, highlight how cannabis as a medicine, is used and benefits, as well as the struggle that people go through and how because literally we talked about it the other night. There are probably legions of blonde Republican mothers federally transporting cannabis oil for their kids across state lines around the country. So there are a lot of people that are out there on the front lines trying to get medicine that is not going to kill them, is not going to addict them unless they want to be, as Tommy Chong says. It's addictive if you want it to be, if you want to smoke it all the time. It's going to bring them relief. It's going to bring them some joy and some happiness. That certainly is what happens. It's going on with Chela's mom with regards to her dementia. And so you're going to go get your card. And when do you expect to be able to get it in your home state and not have to commit federal crime to go get your medicine?
Our first dispensary is supposed to be open within the next 3 months. They're supposed to open the actual dispensary with CBD oils, but they're going to start getting in their actual marijuana and THC products a few months later.
And is it are they doing a licensing? I'm gonna dig into this amendment and see what it's all about, but I haven't really read it yet. Is there a licensing structure that's going to go on? I mean, this is an amendment to the Constitution, right? So this is now state law with regards to availability. And there's a list of ailments. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I'm hoping pain, chronic pain, and PTSD, and all the ones that should be on there are on there, and not just
chronic pain, PTSD, ADD, and ADHD, and then bipolar and depression are on there right now that I've seen. Well, I know epilepsy's on there too, but
sure,
I don't have that.
It should be available for anything. We think it should be tomatoes, and you should be able to. Is there a growing limit? Are you able to personally grow your medicine?
I'm pretty sure the limit is 6 plants in Missouri, but I'm not exactly certain. I haven't looked into it too much, but some states, kind of like Michigan, they're allowing 12.
That was probably our biggest
excellent.
obstacle.
Hey, you know what, Seth? I am going to. I've managed to get into this meeting.
All that well.
Okay. So I'm going to say goodbye to you.
Actually, go into the campaign. We had to do a lot to make sure voters were aware of this, and we did not have the same sort of financial resources that Mr. Bradshaw did, because he was able to just cut himself a check whenever he needed money.
Seth, I just want to say goodbye to you properly, but I want to jump in on this meeting. Call us again another time. Let us know how it went to get your card.
This argument that
we wish you the best,
our initiative was really just recreational.
We hope you get your cannabis medicine to help you and keep you off of those nasty
we allow for home cultivation, which is true, but he really tried to hammer us on that issue. He also said that we would allow violent felons to
I think I might have muted Seth
after 5 years you would be able to get into the industry after being
I apologize for that if I cut you
so
off
those are kind of the two main attacks that he had.
Call again,
we really
please.
pushed on the tax rate, and also that he was self-serving by putting himself at the center of his amendment. And those arguments really played very well. We were endorsed by, I think, almost every single major newspaper in the state. And they also said vote no on Amendment 3 every single time. So voters really got engaged on the issue and learned about it. And the difference was obvious on Election Day because, we carried 65% of the vote. We got more votes than anything or anyone in the entire state of Missouri on the ballot on Tuesday night. And Bradshaw's proposal, Amendment 3, only earned 31% of the vote. So that is a kind of a crushing margin, and we're very proud of that. Then Proposition C also failed, but it was closer. It was 55-45% in that case. So Amendment 2, there's we worried a lot about what happens if multiple of these initiatives pass. What's going to be the law? Are we going to have to go into litigation over this? And fortunately, we don't have to worry about that now. That has been avoided. Amendment 2 is going to be the law of the land, and it's I think people are already proceeding into implementation. The governor has recognized that this is the will of the people, and him and the health department will be carrying it out.
Can you tell us a little bit about the timeline for that, and like how many licenses are available, and when patients can expect to see access to their medicine?
Sure. So the department is supposed to make the forms for applications for patient cards, for cultivation, for extraction, and dispensaries. They're supposed to make those available by the beginning of June. They could do that earlier, but that is the mandate that they have to do it by then. And then the patients can start sending in their applications pretty much immediately after that. But for the industry players, it's August when they would have the applications. They can be accepted by the Department of Health. And then 5 months after that, so basically the beginning of 2020 is when they would start awarding those licenses. And there are 3 classes of license. There's cultivation, there's extraction, and there is dispensary. And there's one for every 100,000 people in the state on cultivation, which is about 61 licenses. That's the minimum that the department has to give out. They can give out more, but I think initially that's where it's going to start. Then extraction, it's 1 for every 75,000. So I think that's 82 licenses. And then with dispensaries, there's a geographic disbursement requirement. So there's at least 24 dispensaries for every congressional district in the state. So a minimum of 192 dispensaries.
All right, great, thank you. So Cole, I know that you're probably disappointed in Tuesday's results, but as Matt said, you made a valiant effort and really laid the groundwork for future campaigns. Can you tell us a little bit about what the challenges you faced were and what the next steps are?
For having. Thank you first and foremost for having me. I also want to take the time to thank people on this call that were also very supportive of this effort. Matt, I know Normal's not on this call, but Normal was certainly instrumental in helping position us to at least be somewhat competitive in this race, as well as Drug Policy Alliance. They were a huge help. Allowed us, a last-minute injection to do a direct mail piece. North Dakota was going to be an uphill battle no matter which way you look at it. And on top of it, and I'm just going to be frank here, the bill was not the most ideal. The bill author didn't consult with, the great people at NCIA, the great people at MPP, great people at Normal. This was a pure grassroots activist effort. And, no one expected us to even make the ballot. Which would have been terrible. I came here from the East Coast to help run this effort. It would have been a very big disappointment. But we made the ballot, and the big impetus behind the effort was honestly how the legislature really bungled medical marijuana in North Dakota, which passed with 64% of the vote, comparable to what Donald Trump garnered. And people were very upset, are still very upset about the fact that medical hasn't been operational. They took the teeth out of the bill. So this is the product of that. When you have a broad bill, the way it was, unlimited possession, unlimited cultivation, with the expectation that the legislature will fill in with regulation and licensing and additional taxation on top of sales tax. But, the big problem was, honestly, we were going to live and die by the under 40 vote. And the under 40 vote did not turn out as much as we needed them to. And to Congressman or Senator-elect Kramer's credit, that's some good alliteration there. Senator Kramer's credit, he did a masterful job of turning out 65 plus voters. And that just killed us. on top of the lies that Project Sam was spreading in Michigan, they were spreading the same lies here in North Dakota, and we were being outspent 5-1. And, I think, a nice way to put it is, with the result losing 59-41 here in North Dakota, we've certainly planted the seeds of truth. And at this point, we can expect and hope, and I hope everyone here puts pressure on the legislature in North Dakota. They pledged to push through a decriminalization bill immediately when the legislature reconvenes in January. That is some progress, and they announced that this would be done a week before the election. I don't think it took the wind out of our sails. I just think that some people that were leaners probably just didn't, they didn't come home to us because of that announcement that decriminalization would be occurring. So turning out people was very tough with the limited funds we had. But I'm confident that between medical marijuana hopefully being operational in the very near future, decriminalization becoming a reality in North Dakota, it sets up 2020 to be an interesting case for marijuana reform in the state of North Dakota.
Thank you. We'll definitely be following that very carefully.
You mentioned getting the vote to turn out under 40. I didn't even know there were people under 40 who lived in North Dakota. So that had to have been a challenge into itself.
It was, but here's the other interesting fact. North Dakota, with the exception of their prejudice laws against suppressing the Native American vote here, the demographics here, it's like 85% white, 10% Native American, and then a smattering of other minority groups. But North Dakota has the loosest voting laws in the country. You don't need to register to vote. You just need to have a valid and updated ID, and you can vote.
Hey, Morgan, I just want to let you know I have to run off the call to go pick up my daughter. So, guys, I appreciate all the work you guys did in the States. It was amazing. Even in North Dakota, just getting those numbers. It makes my job a lot easier telling the narrative to Congress. And, John, I totally hear you. It's like in Florida when medical got 70+%. In Colorado, the story when you say it is more popular than usually any politician in a state, that gets people's attention. And it makes my job a lot easier when I'm going up on Capitol Hill. So, guys, appreciate all the work you guys have done. Morgan, best of luck with everything and the rest. Sorry I got to run, but appreciate it, guys. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for joining us. So we're going to do a quick question session here. I know we're running on a little bit out of time, so I'm just going to do just one question for everybody, and Mike already addressed this, but I'm sorry, I skipped ahead here. Matt, can you tell us what happened with Utah?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I was unmuting. So we won in Utah, and we've enacted medical marijuana in one of the most socially conservative states in the country. And as I've been telling people, if you can pass medical marijuana in Utah, you can pass it in any state, and we can, should, and will. So Utah, the campaign started in early 2017 as a partnership between MPP and allies on the ground, some of whom came from a libertarian think tank called Libertas. We drafted a very conservative form of medical marijuana. For example, home cultivation will only be permitted 2 years down the line if you lived 100 miles or more from a dispensary. That's the largest such geographic requirement. So we did our research before we did the drafting. We did polling, and we tested different provisions, such as home cultivation, how many dispensaries there might be, local control, and we used that research to guide the drafting process. The signature drive went fairly well. At the very end, the opponents actually went door to door trying to convince people to withdraw their signatures, having already signed. Sometimes these people going door to door would pretend to be part of the county clerk's office. They would go to young people's doors and tell them, this isn't real medical marijuana. It doesn't go anywhere near far enough. And then they would go to older people's doors and tell them, this is crazy. This isn't medical marijuana. This is recreational marijuana. So we withstood that late challenged during the signature drive. We got dragged into court, as we almost always do, because it's a way that opponents, it's a technique opponents can use to deplete our resources. We overcame those legal challenges. Everything was looking good. The polling internally was in the low 70s at the start of the campaign. All the public polling since then had us in the high 60s or low 70s. And then the game changer occurred. In late August, the LDS Church announced its opposition, its firm opposition to Prop 2. And that changed the game. Our polling numbers dropped significantly. There were just a lot of Mormon voters in Utah who supported medical marijuana in principle, wanted to see that policy in effect, but had great misgivings about voting for an initiative that their church opposed. That led to the compromise, which many of you probably heard about, might have questions about. So at the beginning of October, there was a press conference in the Utah State House, and the governor of Utah, the speaker, the Senate president, representatives of the LDS Church, and the Utah Medical Association, which was one of the lead opponents of Prop 2, all stood up alongside members of the campaign and pledged to enact an alternative medical marijuana law in a special session after the vote, regardless of whether Prop 2 won or lost. And part of that agreement was that both sides would de-escalate their campaigns. And what that entailed was not running TV ads, not running digital ads, still making the case in public, doing earned media, but really no paid communications. And we abided by that agreement. The opponents largely abided by that agreement. There were a few rogues on the other side who kept spending money, but that's why you did not see an onslaught of opposition ads against Prop 2 in Utah. Fast forward to Election Day, we win. It looks like 53%, though there's still a bunch of votes out there that haven't come in, so it might tick down a little bit. But safe to say that Prop 2 has passed. And, you know, some people look at that and say, well, you won. Why did you make a deal? And to that, I offer two thoughts. One, I believe a major reason why Prop 2 passed was there was no opposition spending, or very little. If we'd not made that deal, there would have been millions of dollars spent against Prop 2. We would have been outspent, and I think the initiative would have failed. So I think that's important to recognize. And second, and I can't really prove this, but it's a theory shared with some of the folks on the ground, that we think that there are some Mormon voters who supported Prop 2, heard about the LDS opposition, then shifted away from Prop 2, and then saw this compromise deal blessed by the church, and realized that indeed the LDS Church did support some form of medical marijuana. They were aware of the fact that win or lose, the same thing was going to happen afterwards, special session with the compromise bill enacted. And I think some of those Mormon voters came back to us now feeling comfortable that they were not going against their church, so to speak. So I think those were two factors people should consider. Now we have election days behind us. The law officially takes effect at some point in early December. But the plan right now is for this legislative session to happen, a special session convened by the governor this year. We expect the other side to uphold their promise. They made a public and unequivocal promise that they would enact this compromise bill. And hopefully it can be improved slightly during that legislative session. I think now that we have a mandate from the people, there's good reason to do that. Another thing to consider in all of this before I stop is that in Utah, when you pass an initiative through a ballot initiative process, it has no protection in the legislature. It can be amended with a simple majority in the legislature. It's not like Michigan where you need 3/4 in each chamber. So we were always at the whim of the legislature. And if there had never been a deal and we'd narrowly passed, the legislature might have gone in and amended the bill or delayed the bill or repealed the bill. So looking back, I feel that as a campaign, we made good decisions that serve the interests of the patients. We're going to get a law in Utah. It's going to be something that is not ideal, but workable, provides access, and something to build upon in future legislative sessions in Utah. So I think it's a great win for the movement, for medical specifically, and certainly a win for the people of Utah.
Thanks, Matt. In the interest of time, I'm going to move ahead a little bit and ask you, aside from the states that you've already mentioned, it seems like there are a lot of states in the Northeast and the Midwest that might be considering legislative changes. What do you see happening at the state legislative level next year and the year after? And do you see any states beyond North Dakota on the horizon for 2020 for ballot initiatives?
Sure. I'll start with the legislative targets. Illinois, we've got J.B. Pritzker, the newly elected Democrat governor, who's been a vocal supporter of legalization and has expressed a desire to get that done early in his term. So that's very encouraging. That's a big state for us. Looking to the Northeast, I think Connecticut is a state where we, MPP, have been working for a number of years, pushing things further along the legislative process, and now we have a newly elected Democrat there, Ned Lamont, who's a supporter of legalization. So I think we could see Connecticut move. Rhode Island, my home state, you can see it up there. Been trying to get them to listen. Been telling them how much tax revenue do you want to send to Massachusetts, and soon I hope to be able to say how much tax revenue do you want to send to both your neighboring states of Massachusetts and Connecticut. And then medical, we're looking at Kentucky potentially, and South Carolina, which is a state where MPP's dedicated a lot of resources over the last several years. So those are just some of the legislative target states for us in the next couple of years. Looking ahead to 2020 and ballot initiatives, I expect that Ohio and Arizona will both have legalization initiatives on the ballot. We came very close in 2016. I helped run that campaign in Arizona. I think that that's very likely in 2020. And then Florida, I think, is a possible 2020 legalization state. And then there's states like Nebraska where there's very high level of support for medical marijuana. I could see a medical initiative being launched there. And, that's actually one of the things I'm working on today, already thinking ahead about 2020. What are the best states? Where are the cheap signature drives? Where do we avoid the geographic requirements? What kind of protections do we have for laws that we enact through statutory initiatives? So it's obviously a presidential year. That's always better for our issue to be on the ballot. And so it's a big opportunity for the marijuana reform movement to get a number of wins. So far, the maximum number of legalization wins we've had was 4 back in 2016. I think it's possible that we win even more than 4, and that's just legalization. So I think 2020 is going to be a very big year for marijuana ballot initiatives across the country.
All right, thanks. Looks like we are just about out of time. I want to give a huge thanks to our panelists, John Payne, Cole Heyman, Matt Schweik, and Michael Correa. If you are not yet a member of NCIA, please visit us at thecannabisindustry.org, and you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if anyone has further inquiries based on this conversation or would like to be put in contact with any of our panelists, you can email me at media@thecannabisindustry.org. Thanks, and have a good night.
So we caught looks like the second half of that meeting. I guess they talked about Michigan, and then a bunch of people dropped off, and we were able to get on. But we did catch some information about Missouri, and also Utah, and also the future of what 2020 looks like at the state level. So that was ended up with some pretty good insight as to what's coming up. So we'll take a look at that and maybe watch some highlights from that on Sunday's show. Meanwhile, I am not going to take any more calls because Chela's about to take her final exam. Chela's about to take a final exam, so phone calls, I'm going to be way too loud for phone calls in our 275 square feet place. Well, I'm going to play some videos and then let's keep going in the chat here. Some talk going on in the chat. Welcome everybody. Tara Lee doing some dabs, doing some home trimming. Veg Crom Bloom is at work, but gummying out. And AZ4 in 2020, Arizona 4. A Jingo ate my baby. Seems the black market is trying to keep up with legal states by better quality and no seeds recently. Yeah, interesting, right? The traditional market isn't going anywhere under these tax and regulate schemes that are popping up. As long as they continue to overtax and keep licensing and access to the marketplace by entrepreneurs and folks out and unaccessible, you're going to keep the traditional market open. If you want to change over, you got to open the doors. You got to open the doors. Yeah, Instagram is where you. You didn't hear that from me. Yeah, it's as long as you're going to like in California, 15% is the starting tax. Okay, that's the starting. And then you add all the city shit and all the garbage and even Governor Brown out here in California with the Democratic legislature finally does something. Well, yeah, because they didn't do Medicare for all, which they should have with all Democrats running the state of California. Surprise, surprise. They passed a tax break for people who donate cannabis to critically ill people so they could save the 15%. And Governor Jerry Brown vetoed that 95-2 or 93-2 or whatever it was law. Only 2 no's. And he vetoed it because it wasn't in the within the spirit of Prop 64 taxation of cannabis. So they want their money. So no calls right now. Ignore the number. We'll do that. We will definitely do that on Sunday. We'll set aside a time for calls. We had Seth Brown. Thank you for calling in, brother. He is having some struggles with opiates, with the pain that he has survived and is surviving with. So thank you for calling in, and we hope to hear that you have success in getting your card in Missouri, and that one of those 192 dispensaries will be getting you medicine so you don't have to leave the state and take your liberty into your hands. So we'll keep an eye on. We have lots of stuff to look at now. Now that these and over the next 2 years, it's all cannabis, people. Cannabis 2020, cannabis 2019. We're going to see lots of changes. I want to see that Democratic McDonnell. Is that his name? McDonnell is now in charge of where Pete Sessions is. Jim McDonnell. I think that's his name. Democrat. He's got an A from normal. Hoping to see some of these cannabis bills right at the top of the list. Some of the stuff that's been buried. The popular stuff right up there at the top of the list in the House. If not, if they start to put it on the back burner, like, oh, this is not important, like our friends all say, oh, cannabis isn't important.
Just weed. I
Yeah.
vote for more than just weed.
I vote for more than just weed. That's what they say, huh? Yeah. It's a lot more than just weed, people. Yeah. So there's Chela about to take her final. Say hi. There's Jackpot, the cute little t-shirt. Oh, we didn't answer the Gore Vidal question. The Gore Vidal, we're going to get a special story about the Gore Vidal poster. You've seen this in literally every broadcast.
From the 70s.
It's an OG Gore Vidal Senate poster.
From Gore Vidal.
Yes. From Chela's parents were friends with Gore Vidal, and they gave them that poster in Rome. So we're going to get a story from that from the Pope, the Pope of Hollywood, Maurizio Fiorini. He may call in on Skype on some day. He knows how to do that. And from Roma. But yeah, smash the button. I'm going to play some videos that are on the covering the hot news about the election, and get a jump on our Sunday show. And I'll come on back and chat with you in a minute after Chela's final. Thanks for watching, everybody. Subscribe, get notifications. We do this show every Sunday at 4:20 Pacific live, and feels like it's going to be happening a little bit more with all of the exciting news happening in the cannabis world on a daily basis. So, not daily. We're not guaranteeing anything, but now that we know how to check in, and I figured out how to make sure that the camera angle flips on our broadcasts. I know. Well, I flowed right into the landscape today, so I know it on the new phone. All right, so let's check out some videos. Thanks, everybody. Hit that thumbs up. That's a great idea too. Let's see what's going on. Let's stay in the Midwest because it's good news. Good news. Who's Brandon Davies? I don't know, but he's going to talk about the new medical marijuana law in Missouri. So let's hear what he has to say.
In Missouri, and though that may be a relief for some, it also opens up a can of worms legally that could affect you if you plan to get a prescription.
Let's try that from the top. And we're going to get rid of Missouri. Seth is in Missouri, so we're going to look at this video. As soon as I can figure out how to get rid of that, start it, then I'll figure it out. Okay, here we go.
Right now.
Medical marijuana, legal in Missouri. The problems you'll face crossing the state line, even if you have a prescription.
Kansas City, KCTV 5 News at 10 starts now.
Medical marijuana will soon be legal in Missouri, and though that may be a relief for some, it also opens up a can of worms legally that could affect you if you plan to get a prescription. KCTV5's Betsy Webster is live in Kansas City, Missouri tonight. And Betsy, legal experts have a pretty big warning tonight.
Well, that's right. You know, you may be able to consume cannabis products here, but step across the state line and you could be in trouble for years to come. Say you decide to go shopping in Kansas and you have a cannabis product in your pocket. You forgot it was there. You run into police. Now you're in jail for the night. And even if you get just probation, you'll have to find a replacement drug therapy for at least a year.
Virtually every probation contract here in Kansas is going to require that a person abstain from the use of illegal drugs and alcohol. And since it's illegal in Kansas, they're going to test the person routinely.
Overland Park lawyer Brandon Davies handles a lot of pot cases.
We're going to start getting a lot more calls.
And he's prepared to have a lot more once the Missouri law goes into effect.
You've got Colorado, it's completely legal. You got Missouri now, that's medical marijuana. That's all going to develop. But then you've got this area in between those two places who is super tough on people that have marijuana.
There are other complications he can see cropping up that will likely be tested in court, like the growing part. You're allowed 6 plants if you have a prescription card. Sure, it's illegal to then share the weed with others, but it's not as easy to track as someone illegally sharing their Oxy prescription.
Oxy, that's regulated. You can't just you can't grow Oxy out of the ground.
Now, other issues include DWI. There's a number for alcohol, 0.08. What's the limit for THC? How do you test that? Then there's your job. How does medical marijuana fit in with a corporate policy for random drug testing? All of those are things he says still need to be ironed out, but things you may want to consider as this law gets underway. Live in Kansas City, Missouri, Betsy Webster, KCTV 5 News.
Yeah, a lot to think about. Betsy, thank you.
Coming soon to Missouri, medical marijuana, and tonight we are learning about the impact it could have. New at 10 o'clock, 41 Action News reporter Kat Reed joins us. Spoke to some patients it could help. So, Kat, what types of conditions can doctors recommend this for?
Well, Mike, a ton of them are actually listed right in the amendment itself. So doctors can recommend medical marijuana for side effects of cancer, glaucoma, and migraines. Epilepsy and PTSD are listed too. And the people I met today say having access to the drug will be life-changing.
Avery Lango is like most 2-year-olds.
Give Sissy a kiss. Right here, right here. Oh, that was nice.
She loves watching cartoons and spending time with her siblings, but there's something else she has to deal with.
On a typical day, she has anywhere from 20 to 100 small absent seizures.
It's a severe form of epilepsy called Dravet syndrome. Through research, the Langos learned medical marijuana products were helping kids like Avery have fewer seizures or stopping them once they started. That's how the family got involved with Missouri's Amendment 2.
All of our apples were in one basket. We didn't have a plan B.
The Langos weren't alone.
So many people are interested in the fact that, a retired lieutenant colonel
kind of knows so much about cannabis or has researched this so deeply.
Todd Scatini served in the Army for 27 years. His company, Harvest 360, plans to research the medical benefits of marijuana here in Missouri. He also hopes to get his patient ID card.
I would use medical cannabis probably on a daily basis to treat a lot of things that come out of service to the nation. Chronic pain is certainly one of them.
Oh, thank you. Mwah. I love you.
The Langos are relieved they won't have to move away from friends and family to help Avery.
Just a sigh of relief to know that we can stay home, we can stay here in Missouri, and she can get the medical treatment option that she deserves.
The amendment takes effect on December 6th. The Department of Health and Senior Services will oversee medical marijuana in the state, and it has to make patient ID applications available by the beginning of June. In the studio, Kat Reed, 41 Action News.
First, what everyone is buzzing about tonight, marijuana in Michigan.
More than 24 hours after you voted yes to legalize recreational pot, the future is bright for budding businesses, and they are already seeing dollar signs.
We talked to the owner of one Detroit dispensary, and they got 700 phone calls just today.
And this is just the start for the pot boom, and it could also mean a huge jump in jobs across Metro Detroit.
That Alan graphic. Campbell spoke to two local pot shops to see how they're cashing in.
Had probably 700 calls saying, can I come in there and buy recreational marijuana?
More than 24 hours since voters said yes to marijuana in Michigan, local businesses are planning ahead.
It's moving the industry forward, which is what we like. With recreational coming on board, I think it's just a huge leap forward for the industry, for the state of Michigan.
The future for marijuana dispensaries is good, with more expected to pop up, creating more jobs and unique positions, like bud tenders and many more.
The number of grow facilities, processing facilities, and provisioning centers, as well as secure transport and testing laboratories, all of those require people on the ground floor every single day. So that will stimulate the local economies.
It's not just the marijuana dispensaries that will see an uptick in sales, but also the hydroponic stores like here at Northern Lights, where folks will be coming in to grabbing the necessary equipment they need to grow their own weed.
We've had people, just wonder what about is it going to cost to get, an indoor garden set up, things of that nature. There's definitely been some buzz.
Sales are up, equipment soon to be flying off the shelves, and it's a good sign for business.
We're going to have a lot of people that had stigma attached to growing before. That the stigma's gone now. It's a normal thing. It's going to be like microbrewing your own beer. So I don't see any way that business can improve.
You may or may not agree with the legalization of marijuana, but for businesses, they say it's a good thing.
Just like when prohibition was around and there was negative stigmas surrounding alcohol. And now it's so ubiquitous that it's accepted by a large amount of people.
The folks I spoke with say the industry and future looks bright for years to come, with plenty of growth and opportunity. Reporting in Madison Heights, Alan Campbell, 7 Action News.
All right, thank you much, Alan. Chesterfield Township is not wasting any time creating a cannabis committee. The township supervisor says it is important that the committee address the dynamic and complex natures of the new industry and at the same time protect the values of the community. You will be able to legally smoke pot in the next month. Log on to our website at WXYZ.com right now to see what you need to know to follow the limits of the brand new law. Dave?
Medical marijuana is coming to Missouri.
Of all of the candidates and issues that were on the ballot in Missouri last night, nothing got more votes than Amendment 2, which legalized medical marijuana. KMBC 9's William Joy found out what that means for you in Missouri.
Haley and Chris, it's expected to bring in $18 million a year in taxes and fees, but the bigger impact is on the families and people for whom medical marijuana could be the difference between life and death.
Boss baby, or which one? Boss baby. At any moment, she can go from happy and playing and watching cartoons to laying on the floor convulsing.
Avery Lango turns 3 next month. But between now and then, she'll deal with hundreds of seizures.
It's terrifying. You feel helpless.
Some are small, some are life-threatening.
She's been diagnosed with what they call the rare and catastrophic form of epilepsy called Dravet syndrome.
It's why her mother, Sarah Lango, fought hard for Amendment 2, legalizing medical marijuana.
We're giving our kids these medications with all these harmful side effects, and they're not even working.
It passed with 65% of the vote.
It's just excitement and just kind of that sigh of relief.
Amendment 2 is such a common sense approach.
Organizers for Amendment 2 say beyond epilepsy, it could be used for PTSD, cancer, and more.
It really takes best practices that have worked well in other states, make sure there's lots of regulation.
Health cards are expected to be issued by next June.
We'll be one of the first in line, I guarantee that.
By the time Avery Lango turns 4.
Oh, I love you.
The hope is her seizures and the stigma around her treatment are gone.
You know, there's still a lot of people out there who think this is about, you know, smoking a doobie and walking around high. And I would just encourage everyone to do some research, because this is literally life-changing and life-saving for our child. And it's as simple as a drop of oil on her gums.
While the prescription health cards may come next summer, the marijuana must be grown here in Missouri under the new law. That means it'll likely be about this time next year that someone can actually go and purchase medical marijuana. Chris?
Fees and taxes for medical marijuana will pay for state operating costs and veterans programs. Veterans with PTSD were a strong part of the push for legalization.
Two cashing in on weed.
Dispensaries and hydroponic shops across Metro Detroit are preparing for the future and seeing dollar signs.
7 Action News reporter Alan Campbell spoke to the owners of a local shop to see how they're cashing in.
We have had probably 700 calls saying, can I come in there and buy recreational marijuana?
More than 24 hours since voters said yes to marijuana in Michigan, local businesses are planning ahead.
It's moving the industry forward, which is what we like. With recreational coming on board, I think it's just a huge leap forward for the industry, for the state of Michigan.
The future for marijuana dispensaries is good, with more expected to pop up, creating more jobs and unique positions, like bud tenders and many more.
The number of grow facilities, processing facilities, and provisioning centers, as well as secure transport and testing laboratories, all of those require people on the ground floor every single day. So that will stimulate the local economies.
It's not just the marijuana dispensaries that will see an uptick in sales, but also the hydroponic stores like here at Northern Lights, where folks will be coming in to grabbing the necessary equipment they need to grow their own weed.
We've had people, just wonder what about is it going to cost to get, an indoor garden set up, things of that nature. There's definitely been some buzz.
Sales are up, equipment soon to be flying off the shelves, and it's a good sign for business.
We're going to have a lot of people that had stigma attached to growing before. That the stigma's gone now. It's a normal thing. It's going to be like microbrewing your own beer. So I don't see any way that business can improve.
You may or may not agree with the legalization of marijuana, but for businesses, they say it's a good thing.
Just like when prohibition was around and there was negative stigmas surrounding alcohol. And now it's so ubiquitous that it's accepted by a large amount of people.
The folks I spoke with say the industry and future looks bright for years to come, with plenty of growth and opportunity. Reporting in Madison Heights, Alan Campbell, 7 Action News.
Voters in cities and counties that had marijuana referenda on the ballot made it clear they want legalization. Milwaukee, Kenosha, Racine City and County, and the city of Waukesha support legalization. Some counties did only say they would want legalization for medical purposes, while others would like to see legalization for recreational use. Both Racine County and City proper had a total of 7 marijuana-related questions. Kristen Burns spoke with local leaders about what the results could mean for future legalization.
The referendum results don't change state law or city ordinances, but some believe they create a catalyst for change. The marijuana referendum results are in, and so far in the city and county of Racine, for example, most voters said yes to questions like legalizing recreational or medical marijuana or decriminalizing the drug.
When you have 16 counties throughout the state overwhelmingly saying this needs to occur, and then you have legislators saying, well, nobody wants this, someone's not telling the truth.
Racine Alderman John Tate II introduced the city's marijuana referendum questions to the council.
70+% say we need to decriminalize. So that means that we can start taking measures to reduce the consequences for possession as the state statutes allow us to.
Not everyone is on board, and they don't want people to know that. This Racine resident didn't even want to be identified because she's against legalizing marijuana for any kind of use. Why did you vote no?
I strongly feel it isn't necessary to have that as a recreational outlet. And what it does to kids, I've seen it firsthand, and it's upsetting. But it's coming across the country. What are you going to do?
Alderman Tate has already proposed reducing fines in Racine for those found in possession of marijuana of under 25 grams. It hasn't passed yet, but he thinks these referendum results will help. In Racine, Kristen Byrne, today's TMJ4.
For full election results, as well as a look at the record voter turnout for last night's election, head to tmj4.com/thevote.
All right, thank you, Karen. Now here at home, one of the big stories is the vote to make recreational marijuana legal. Proposal 1 passed with 56% of the vote. But does that mean anyone can light up anywhere right now? Well, the short answer, no. In the next 2 hours, Paula Tutman will be answering key questions about making marijuana legal. She starts with what happens next.
Right now, I'm in the Far West Provisioning Center in Detroit, and this is a location that sells medical marijuana. So Prop 1 passed last night for recreational
Voters in
use
Michigan
of
have passed an
marijuana.
initiative.
And so I know you're thinking, okay, so recreational use is legal right now. Not so fast. It's kind of a Schoolhouse Rocks kind of deal. Legalizing the adult recreational use of marijuana still has a road to walk before you can smoke your first joint. Start with the fact that while you voted to legalize recreational pot, the vote still has to be certified with a waiting period.
The law has to go into effect first. Right now, we're looking at a couple of weeks before it'll finally take effect.
So not until around December 6th can you own, smoke, or grow marijuana for non-medical use. But wait, there's more. Laws still have to catch up with the new law. And LARA, the licensing and regulatory arm of the Michigan government, is charged with figuring out commercial use.
Our licensing and regulatory infrastructure for medical marijuana can be scaled up to incorporate the oversight of adult use marijuana. We intend to offer more details regarding the commercial production and distribution of marijuana for adult use after the Michigan Board of Canvassers certifies the election results.
Right now, it is still illegal in the state of Michigan to own or grow marijuana. But here's another interesting piece. Even in December, when it is legal to use recreationally, it will be illegal to buy or sell it for recreational use.
You actually can't just go into a current provisioning center, which is what we call a dispensary, once the law goes into effect, because right now those are only for medical marijuana patients.
So while it will no longer be illegal to have, hold, or smoke, you still won't be able to legally buy or sell it in the state for non-medical use.
The passage of Proposal 1 yesterday does not permit somebody to walk into this provisioning center or any other legal provisioning center in the state and purchase medical marijuana. All that changes is that people can then possess up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana without any criminal liability, or they can have up to 10 ounces in their home.
That said, medical marijuana dispensaries will be the first line of retailers within the next 12 to 24 months, and they are gearing up for booming business. Far West Holistic Center in Detroit has 3 locations and is expanding throughout the state. Okay, so that means at the end of the day, yes, recreational use was legalized yesterday. No, it is not legal to use, sell, or buy. Right now, all rules and laws, Karen, apply right now.
Very important to clarify that. All right. Thank you, Paula. We'll be looking for your other reports tonight at 5 and 6. Meantime, this issue is one of our top items online. You can read more about the impact of the proposal at clickondetroit.com. Our coverage continues at 5. Paula will take a look at law enforcement issues, including driving under the influence of marijuana. At 6, marijuana in the workplace. Some important things have not and will not change.
The recreational use of marijuana in Michigan isn't very far away. Voters resoundingly approved Proposal 1 to legalize the recreational use of pot in our state. 7 Action News reporter Matthew Smith has more on Tuesday's vote and what it means moving forward.
Ever since the poll results started to roll in, there has been a lot of excitement from those we've been talking to this morning about recreational marijuana. But that doesn't mean that everything is just all ready to go. In fact, it won't be until early to mid-December when votes are officially certified, and then there's a 10-day waiting period before this becomes law of the land. Regardless, there are a lot of people talking about this, including those who are against this, who say they're not giving up.
We see this as the beginning of the war, and that we may have lost the battle if we do end up losing the battle, but not the war.
That's the opposition making sure its followers know this is not done. But for all practical purposes, Michigan will allow recreational marijuana once last night's vote is certified. At the latest, we're hearing estimates of mid-December, if not sooner. But dispensaries, that'll take time. A long time. Now, keep in mind, licenses for medical marijuana shops have been slow to come by, so that will not be overnight. What this vote did do, though, is it legalized adults 21 and up to possess up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana and grow up to 12 plants in a home. The biggest news for the people behind Prop 1, the folks who stayed up late to watch returns in Lansing here, the effects on the legal system.
over 20,000 arrests every year for marijuana-related offenses is going to be eliminated. Our opposition talked about how that arrests are going to increase, and that's just not going to happen.
So again, unlikely that you'll see medical marijuana shops like this one popping up, becoming recreational too quickly. This is going to be a long process, but the law of the land will be changing sometimes, most likely in early to mid-December. Of course, we will keep you updated right here at WXYZ. We're in Ann Arbor. Matthew Smith, 7 Action News.
Who voted and Proposal 1 passed to make recreational marijuana legal in the state of Michigan. As we look at Proposal 1 and what the totals look like across Michigan, this is our heat map. So in pink, you see the counties where it passed. In orange, you see the counties where it didn't. As far as West Michigan is concerned, this is Kent County. It was 55 to 45%. Well, right next door in Ottawa County, it was orange. We had no 58% to yes 42%. As far as what this means for you today, well, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can just go out and light up. There's a timeline here of how this could work, and none of it is set in stone. But this is something that we have looked into for you, specifically Casey Jones. So, Casey, what does come next?
Well, Teresa, the short answer is we don't exactly know what's next. Here's what we do know. We know that you can't go outside today and light up a joint. We also know that you won't be able to buy from businesses in the state of Michigan for quite some time. Under the Michigan Constitution, a voter initiative like Prop 1 goes into effect 10 days after it's officially declared and certified by the state's Board of Canvassers. So we're looking at a little more than 3 weeks before you can legally smoke and have that 2.5 ounces on you in the 12 plants in your home. Now, we get a good framework of what might come in looking at the history of other states. Colorado and Washington, the first in the country to legalize recreational marijuana in November 2012. They began their sales. They didn't see that come until 2014. Nevada was the quickest. Voters approved the legislation in November of 2016, and then you see that the first sales came in July of the next year. Now, Maine is still in a battle. Their governor tried to veto the voters' proposal. That was overturned by the House and the Senate in the state. So now they're working on getting weed on the shelves in their stores by the spring of 2019. Here in Michigan, we spoke with a cannabis lawyer in West Michigan who says that Laura will have 1 year to finalize these commercial regulations.
There'll be an application process. There'll be criteria to meet in order to satisfy the requirements, and that too will take probably 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months to work an application through the process. So we won't see anything in Michigan in terms of adult use marijuana commercial activity for probably 1.5 years from today.
Now, Laura did release a statement overnight on the proposal that said, in part, we intend to offer more details regarding the commercial production and distribution of marijuana for adult use after the Michigan Board of Canvassers certifies the election results.
All right, well, closer to home, Michigan will soon join 9 other states in legalizing the sale of marijuana for recreational use. That after
Voters in Michigan have passed an initiative to legalize recreational marijuana. Proposition 1 will allow people 21 and older to purchase, possess, and use marijuana and edibles. Under the proposal, adults can grow up to 12 marijuana plants for personal use. It will also put a 10% tax on marijuana sales, plus the existing 6% sales tax. The revenue will be used first to implement and enforce the measure. Then, a portion goes to FDA-approved marijuana clinical trials, and the remainder will be split between schools, roads, and cities and counties with marijuana businesses. Municipalities are able to decide whether they want those businesses in their jurisdiction, but they can't ban them altogether. To be clear, the legalization still won't allow driving under the influence, smoking near schools, or in public, except in some designated areas. Supporters of the measure have pointed to the revenue it would bring to the state. Critics argued that the possession limit of 2.5 ounces is much higher than other states. Michigan is now the first state in the Midwest to pass recreational marijuana legalization.
Been very busy over the last many months for Color 10 News, extensively covering the medical marijuana issue. And Jesse is live in Springfield. Are you surprised to see some of these numbers? What are you hearing where you are right now?
Well, yeah, guys, right now I'm in downtown Springfield at a watch party for Amendment 2.
and I'm here at the Riad on the corner of Walnut and South Avenue. And what I'm hearing right now is pretty positive vibes, a lot of joy. They've been playing music throughout the night. They turned it off for us right here for right now. But, you know, am I surprised at this result? You know, I can't say I am, I can't say I'm not, because it was just one of those things. You never really know how it's going to turn out, especially with 3 measures on the same issue. But, you know, as you guys just said, you just alluded to it, the only measure with over 50% yes affirmation is Amendment 2. And saying that, I want to bring in Chip Shepard right now. Chip, thanks for joining us this evening.
You bet.
He's a board member for New Approach Missouri who backs Amendment 2. And, you know, Chip, it's been a pretty good vibe in here tonight. You guys are kind of seeing the result you wanted. You know, in about, I'd say about 9:45, you had an announcement for everybody here.
Right.
And what did you tell everybody?
I just told everybody we think we won. We, with over 50% reporting and such a wide margin, we felt comfortable saying we won. I knocked on a little bit of wood, but we were really blessed with thousands of volunteers helping us out on this. So finally, Missourians are going to have the medicine they need to help them get away from opiates. It really is the exit drug for anybody that's having opiate issues. So this is a wonderful day for about 200,000 Missourians. It's a great day for Missouri, and thanks to all the record number of people that voted and the veterans that helped us out all along the way, and all the other supporters. We had thousands of grassroots supporters. It's just a wonderful night, wonderful feeling to finally win this thing. Yeah.
You know, and you said, you know, it's kind of been a grassroots movement, and, you know, that a lot of those folks with pain are going to be the real winners tonight. But it's not just them. Could you talk a little bit about, you know, the veterans? They're also going to be winning.
Right. So the veterans, you know, PTSD, their chronic pain, and just all the other issues. And the veterans have, we just don't take good enough care of them. This is going to put $20 million a year in Missouri for Missouri veterans towards health care and workforce development. So the community colleges should be a big benefactor of this, and the veterans, of course, will be a big benefactor because we'll get them back in the workplace, get them the medicine that they need that's safe instead of an opiate. And it's just a wonderful thing for veterans to have more health care dollars in light of everything that's been going on with the Veterans Administration.
You know, it's November 6th, 2018 right now. When do you anticipate that, you know, patients ultimately will have access to medical marijuana?
These veterans and all the other patients in Missouri, the cancer patients, the patients with multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's, they should all have medicine, we hope, at the earliest by next Christmas. It takes a while because the Department of Health will make sure that it's tightly regulated, as they should. And so I'm thinking next Christmas of 2019 or January of 2020, we ought to have medicine.
And could you briefly kind of discuss, you know, the process for people, you know, outlining some of the conditions and what it'll take to get?
Sure. So the conditions, in addition to chronic pain, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, Parkinson's, cancer treatment, there are about 20 different conditions. They just go to their normal doctor. He can't prescribe it, he can recommend. He just fills out a certification that they qualify for one of the conditions. They send that to the Department of Health. The Department of Health issues a patient card, and they're in.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Hey,
you know, if things hold up how they are right now.
Appreciate it.